So it's been generations since we've been wanting to have peace in the Middle East, and all of a sudden it's here. We're going to discuss today, how long do we think this is legitimately going to last? Now, late last night, I'm on my way to bed. I get the announcement that Trump is arriving to Israel, so I flip on the news, and this is what I'm looking at. So you got Trump arriving on Air Force One. The cameras are showing that arriving in Tel Aviv. Just an amazing sight where he knows that today is the day that everybody's going to sign the peace deal between Israel, Hamas, and dozens of other countries that have now flown into Egypt that are now awaiting the president. So the president arrives in Israel first. He's going to go and speak at the Knesset, and then immediately get back in the plane and fly over to Egypt. I know, a crazy story, because, I mean, it leaves at, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, East Coast time, essentially flies the rest of the evening, arrives in Israel. This would be roughly 2 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. East Coast time, which is about 10:30 in the morning in Israeli time. So it's a 10-hour flight, and they put the pedal to the metal, as some of the newscasters were saying, and you got there fairly quickly. Immediately gets out of the plane, does the several speeches at the Knesset, travels around, and gets back to the plane, flies over to Egypt, does several speeches over there, signs the paperwork, and flies back home in what we would consider the middle of the night here in the United States. So anybody claiming that he is not in perfect health, because I highly doubt he slept very much while he was on the plane. So the plane lines up. Everybody's there. They got a full pomp and circumstance going on with the arrival of President Trump. I didn't exactly show it. I probably should show it. Here, give me a second. I'm actually going to show this. So this is the beach in Israel, and President Trump flies over this, flies over the square where all the Israelis are gathered. It was called Hostage Square. They've now changed it to Freedom Square. And so as Trump flies in, he flies over this beach. You can see Trump's profile right there, and a great big thank you. I don't exactly know Hebrew, so I don't know exactly what the rest of that says, but that's the appreciation level that Trump is getting as he flies into Israel. So the plane lines up. We got Ivanka Trump there, Jared Kushner's there, Steve Witkoff is there, who's the Middle East envoy. You've got Mike Huckabee there. Trump then comes down the stairs and congratulates the president of Israel, as well as the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Just a massive amount of pomp and circumstance there, but if you follow the news media around Israel, just the amount of appreciation that the Israelis have for Trump is just off the charts, absolutely off the charts. I mean, people are just crying and dancing and celebrating in the streets. Then over in Gaza, a lot of them are doing the same thing. I mean, we start off with the Gazans being extremely anti-Israel. We know for a fact a lot of the Gazans themselves participated in October 7th in those killings, celebrated it. But as the war progressed on, they turned sour against Hamas and against the Palestinian Authority, which started that. And they're frankly getting tired of it. And now that it is all ending today, all of it ending, one of the shocking things is some of the militant groups within Gaza that were once supporting Hamas have now turned against Hamas, and there is one group that's always been against Hamas. As the Israelis pulled back, as the Israeli military pulled back and kept with their side of the bargain. I mean, the Hamas released the 20 hostages. They arrived safely on the Israeli side, caskets are starting to arrive. I think there's been about 7 caskets that arrived so far. There's 28 that have to do that, but it's probably going to take a little while for all of them to get there. They're probably going to even have to locate some of them, because I doubt that they were very careful as to where they put the dead bodies. But as Israel's pulling back and keeping to their side of the bargain, Hamas is now at free to kind of get out in the streets, because before they were in hiding, because if they were caught, they would have been executed by the Israeli Defensive Forces. But as they get out in the streets, they immediately, without hesitation, start trying to find those that were supporting Israel and start executing them. And there's already many videos showing up on YouTube of these executions, as well as on TikTok and Instagram and a few other of those social media sites, where they're just taking them out in the street and just executing them, just shooting them in the head. I mean, that's the type of people we're working with and are hoping that keep the peace between Gaza and Israel.
Yes.
They literally take 52 of these militants that were actually working against Hamas. They weren't necessarily on the side of Israel, but working against Hamas. Take 52 of them out, line them up, and shoot them in the back of the head. 52 of them today. Wasn't yesterday, it was today. While Trump is in Israel speaking to the Knesset, and then getting back on the plane and traveling over to Egypt, and all these nations are now signing the peace deal, Hamas is over there executing people. Literally executing people in the streets. So we're going to run through this and see how long do we really think this is going to last. I mean, this is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal what has occurred. I mean, this is once-in-a-lifetime type of an experience. I mean, Clinton tried doing it. The Bushes tried bringing peace to the Middle East. Obama and Biden tried buying their way by dropping off billions of dollars in actual cash, just pallets of cash. Flew C-17s over there and just dropped off pallets of cash in Iran's doorstep, thinking that would work, which was the stupidest idea I've ever heard, and that's what funded this whole war in the first place. I mean, October 7th, all of these killings, this entire war, you can attribute to Biden and Obama trying to buy off Iran and just dropping off billions of dollars, releasing all that money to these terrorist organizations. So if you want to blame somebody for all this, stop blaming Israel. Blame the idiots that gave them the money to support this war. So now you've got a peace deal. And the beautiful thing behind this peace deal is how many nations Trump was able to pull into it. So we go over to Egypt now. And this is the president of Pakistan. And listen to what he has to say.
His Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening. Well, I would say today is one of the greatest days in contemporary history, because peace has been achieved after untiring efforts led by President Trump, who is genuinely a man of peace, who has relentlessly and untiringly worked throughout these months, day in and day out, to make this world a place to live with peace and prosperity. I would say that Pakistan had nominated President Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize for his outstanding, extraordinary contributions to first stop war between India and Pakistan, and then achieve ceasefire along with his very wonderful team. And today, again, I would like to nominate this great president for Nobel Peace Prize because I genuinely feel that he is the most genuine and most wonderful candidate for Peace Prize because he has brought not only peace in South Asia, saved millions of people, their lives, and today here in Sharm el-Sheikh, achieving peace in Gaza is saving millions of lives in the Middle East. Mr. President, I would like to salute you for your exemplary leadership, visionary leadership, and I think that you are the man this world needed most at this point in time. World would always remember you as a man who did everything, went out of the way to stop 7 and today 8 wars.
What do you say to that? I mean, that is a world leader of Pakistan, of Muslim country, and I'm positive they were more on the side of Palestine than they were on Israel. They know the efforts that Trump put into this because he just brokered the peace deal between Pakistan and India. He just stopped that war. And to turn right back around and stop the war between Israel and Gaza, what it took to accomplish this is absolutely amazing. And Trump turns right around and compliments Marco Rubio for just being one of the best secretaries of state in the history of this country. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket coming up in 2028. I mean, that'd be phenomenal. But Trump, in this same setting, goes through and announces how many countries are going to be a part of this. I mean, you got Canada there, you got Germany there, you got Italy there. The Italian president, she's standing right behind them there. You got the leader of the Palestinian Authority. You've got Iraq there. You got India there. You got Japan there. You got the Egyptians there. Obviously, the Pakistanis are there. The Saudis are there. The Yemen, Qatar. I mean, half the world is in this meeting, all participating in this. And the most beautiful thing behind this peace deal is now that the first phase is complete. And the first phase is probably the simplest of all the phases in which all they had to do is just release the hostages, the 20 hostages that Gaza had, and then the Israelis had to back their military off behind the blue line that's on the maps that they've designated, and then release 2,000 some odd of their detainees, which I don't think is very good because the vast majority of them are absolute murderers and killers, but that's how the peace deal got done. The next phase, though, is disarming Hamas. And they have to completely be out of authority. The Palestinian Authority has to relinquish their authority. It has to be a completely new government inside of Gaza. And as the Egyptian president said right before these two spoke, is they're going to try the two-state solution. Now, we've said many, many times on this podcast that the two-state solution is just not going to work. It's just not going to work. But they're going to give it a try. The benefit behind trying to give it a try is how that peace deal is put together. If Hamas does not stick to the peace deal, if the Gazans do not stick to the peace deal, it's got to be the neighboring countries that puts their military in there to enforce it. It's not Israel. It's not the U.S. Because obviously if it's Israel or the U.S., the rest of the world is going to get mad at them. It's going to foment more violence, more war. So they knew that wasn't going to work. So what they got everybody agreed to is if Hamas decides to go against this, if the Gazans decide to go against this, you guys have to put your military in there and enforce it. And so the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Pakistanis, the Saudis, the Yemenis, the Qataris, I guess they've all agreed to this. So that puts the Gazans in a pretty hard position. That puts anybody who wants to rise up like Hezbollah or residuals from Hamas want to rise up and create something, it's not Israel that they're going to have to answer to. It's not just Israel that's going to threaten to wipe them out. It's their very neighbors that are going to do it. Their fellow Muslim nations, which is the brilliance behind this deal. So the next stage is disarming, and that's going to be the true trial of this, is if they'll lay down their arms. Now, with the help of these other nations, I don't think they're going to have much of a choice, because these other nations obviously want peace. They're obviously more interested in economic development than they are in the goals of the Quran and Sharia Law, which we're going to discuss here in a second, which is a good thing. I mean, the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, they, for a long time, they've been more interested in economic development and generating money than they have been in enforcing some rule that's within the Quran. But we'll see how this works. But completely unprecedented. I mean, the amount of work and effort that had to go into this peace deal, and be able to get that many people to sign off on it, is just incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. Nobody else would have been able to do that, which is why the Pakistani president here is wanting to praise Trump, get him up for the Nobel Peace Prize, because of his undying efforts in bringing this to pass. He says Trump was designed and is the man we needed at this time, because only through his tenacity, through his deal-making skills, through his years of experience, was this able to happen. Nobody else would have been able to put this deal together, particularly not Biden or Obama, any of those. And God knows what would have happened if Kamala had gotten in. This is what this world needed right now. And as Trump says in his speech, the king of, I think it was Saudi Arabia or one of these other nations, said that a year ago, the United States was nothing. A year ago, the United States was a laughingstock. A year ago, the United States was falling and didn't have any respect. I mean, that was the words of this king. And now, in his own words, he says, the United States is now center stage again. The United States is the supreme authority in the world and showing their military might. A lot of things led up to this, because as we said in many podcasts before, those who want to enforce Sharia law, those who want river to the sea, those who want the expansion of the Muslim religion, where their rules is you convert, you subjugate yourself, become a slave and pay a tax, or you die. Those are the rules. I mean, that's how it works. And so they don't believe in peace. They don't believe in negotiation. In fact, when you negotiate with them, they see that as a weakness and they immediately try to attack. I mean, that's their normal MO. So the only way that this worked was because of that show of strength, that show of force. Massive show of strength, a massive show of force. And it came to go together in many different ways. It was part the Israelis coming together and killing off 2 generations of Hamas leadership, close to 60,000 soldiers, Hamas soldiers and leadership, even the ones that they bombed within Qatar and Yemen that almost, according to them, derailed the whole peace talks. But they got rid of a significant amount of leadership so that they don't have anybody willing to fight back. And so it's getting down to lower level leadership that really don't have the same axe to grind and are not really pushing it with the same vigor and hatred and animosity that the previous leadership that are now dead were trying to do. So that's a massive part of it, is just getting rid of that leadership and really just getting rid of a lot of the militants themselves, a lot of the terrorists themselves. So that started it. And then we've always known that Iran has been using Gaza as their proxy war, because Iran's always tried to be getting a nuclear bomb. They've always wanted to get rid of Israel. And as they try to get that nuclear bomb, Trump decided to bomb and take out their nuclear capabilities. The size, dimension of those bombs, the show of force that was, the B-2 bombers flying over from the United States, that's a massive show of force. That is telling them, I am not joking. I will kill you if you don't do this. So part of his negotiating was, you're going to release those hostages. You're going to do it this weekend. You're going to sign this peace deal, or I'm going to facilitate Israel and give them more of U.S. armament and more U.S. military equipment to annihilate you. And don't think that I won't do it, because we just did it. Standing up like that and being firm, and not only being firm, but showing it that you're going to be firm by bombing Iran, that's a show of force. That's saying, no, we're not negotiating. You're doing this or else. And they understand that. They understand that explicitly. That's not going in there with weakness and trying to, well, let's give some give or take here. It's, no, we're going to make it fair, but you will be doing this. Mixing those two events, so Israeli taking out as many people as they took out, President Trump bombing Iran, but not only that, but him bringing together all these other countries, because just a couple months ago, he was in Yemen and in Saudi Arabia, bringing in billions and trillions of dollars of investment into the United States that had nothing to do with Israel or Hamas or anything else, just strict economic development of bringing investment back in the United States. And he brought trillions of dollars in from Hong Kong and Taiwan. He's brought trillions of dollars in investments in from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia. And he talks about bringing those investments in. So he brought over there a number of big CEOs within the United States, Apple, Microsoft, these others, that traveled with him to create this business and bring in this investment months ago. And that's what many of those leaders are interested in, is that economic development. And if it wasn't for developing that friendship, those ties, those financial ties over there months ago, plus the show of force from Israel, plus the show of force the United States had against Iran, this would never have happened. Because it took weakening Hamas significantly, and it takes a cohort of all the neighbors coming together and saying, we are going to help enforce this, because we've already made financial commitments, trillions of dollars of investment into the United States that Donald Trump can destroy if you guys don't behave. So they're financially, economically invested in making sure this peace sticks. Who could have put that much together? Because it took all of it. It wasn't just one thing or the other that created this peace deal. It was all of it combined. It's that financial investment of all these Middle Eastern countries in investing trillions of dollars into the United States and wanting that economic development over there. It's Israel standing up for themselves and showing that they are capable of defeating anything that comes against them, and actually killing off 60,000 Hamas terrorists and the vast majority of their leadership. And it's the United States standing up against Iran and saying, you will not have a nuclear bomb, which brought significant more peace to the region, because all the other nations were also afraid of Iran having a nuclear weapon, because that would have put them on the map and made everybody afraid of them. And that would have made them the top dog in the Middle East, and that would have really, really created some instability over there. Some pretty significant instability. That could not happen. And yet you had everybody mocking Trump for bombing Iran. But yet look at the massive amounts of stability that it brought to the Middle East. I mean, look at what the left is doing now. You've got MSNBC, CNN, Hillary Clinton herself, Kamala Harris, Bill Clinton, all coming out, the Bushes all coming out and congratulating Trump and saying, yes, we have to admit that this is pretty significant. We have to give him the kudos. We have to give him the honor where the honor is deserved of bringing such a massive peace deal to the Middle East. This is undeniable. The left mainstream media cannot twist this. They're not going to be able to spin this in any direction but that the Trump administration did something absolutely massive today. Absolutely massive. But with all that coming together and creating this peace deal, the one question we have to ask ourselves is how long will it last? And we've got to go back to the rules of Sharia law.
Yeah.
Sharia law states, again, you convert, you become a slave and pay a tax, or you die. Those are the rules. So as long as the economic benefits stay in place, and as long as somebody doesn't stand up and say Sharia law is more important than your guys' economic development, Sharia law is more important than Middle East stability and peace, once that happens, once a major player stands up and starts pushing Sharia law again and saying that, look, it's river to the sea, we have to get rid of Israel and the Jews completely, then step forward and continue that throughout Europe, which is already happening. We've done a number of podcasts of how badly Sharia law is spreading throughout Europe. And even here in the United States, how badly that is spreading here in the United States, where people are literally teaching their children to cut off the heads of the infidels within mosques in our own borders. This last week, we went over the rape rate within England, Germany, Poland, France, and I suggest you watch the video that we just had with, or is coming out this coming Sunday. Actually, it's going to come out this coming Sunday with Caroline Fippen, which is a senatorial candidate, and we discussed that. But that's how long this peace deal is going to last. I mean, we can't say that this is going to last forever because we know it's not going to. There's going to be Sharia law extremist leaders rise up. They're already out there, so it's not exactly like they have to grow them again. These type of extremist leaders already exist. Many of them are already here in the United States. Many of them are throughout Europe. There's dozens of them in the Middle East that are throughout Boko Haram, throughout the Muslim Brotherhood, throughout Hezbollah, and all these other terrorist organizations in Iraq, Afghanistan, these other locations. They're going to start coming together. This is not going to last forever. They're going to start coming together and saying, no, Sharia law is more important than peace, is more important than your financial situation. It's more important than economic development. It's more important than the trillions of dollars you guys have invested in the United States. And the leaders here that want peace are going to end up fighting against that, or just standing back and just saying, I'm just letting it happen, because they don't want to get involved. They don't want to have their own blood spilt. They're not going to want to invest their own boots on the ground. And these extremists are going to rise up and start persecuting Israel again, where we're going to have to step in again and say, look, we have these agreements. You're going to have to step up and enforce them. And then that's where the clashes are going to start, is how willing are a lot of these nations are going to be to actually step up and spill blood to enforce it, because that's what it's going to come down to. That's what it's going to come down to. We have to understand explicitly that there is no peace in Sharia law. There is none, zero. Peace does not exist in the letter of the law of Sharia law. It does not exist there. And when they take the Quran to the full extent that it is written, and it is written within the Quran, that is what's going to happen, is Israel cannot exist. The Jewish religion itself, the religion itself cannot exist, because you can only have Sharia law. You can only have the Muslim religion. And they're going to go on and say Christianity can't exist. Buddhism can't exist. Hinduism can't exist. Nothing can exist but the Muslim religion. And it's spreading right now, and it's spreading feverishly right now. But for right now, we have a president that's going to be president until 2028. They know that he is not kidding. They know that he will show a show of force. So we can assume that we're going to have peace at least until 2028. This is going to stand until at least then. Then based on who gets elected next, if J.D. Vance gets elected next, then we're going to be pretty sure that we're going to have peace in the Middle East for an additional 4+ years, particularly if he gets reelected and goes for the full 8 years. We're going to have a considerable time of peace. So this could be a good thing where we could have a decade plus of peace in the Middle East. But if for some reason the U.S. citizens, the very people that vote here in the United States, decide to not vote in another conservative president in 2028, or like was attempted in 2016 and fulfilled in 2020 where they stole elections, if that happens, then we know the peace in the Middle East is not going to last very long because the Democrats do not have the will or the force to be able to keep the peace over there. In fact, they don't want to keep the peace. They don't want to keep the peace here on their own homeland. They don't want to keep the peace internationally because, as we've said in many of these podcasts, their entire goal is to foment enough violence that the U.S. Constitution, our whole structure, falls apart and they can re-engineer it under socialism, single-party state, and complete control. That's always been their goal. So all of this is intertwined and connected. I'm just glad we're going to have peace for the next few years. That is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, that we're going to have that type of peace. And we know we're going to have that kind of peace for the duration of the Trump presidency and possibly for another 8 years past that, because what we're seeing right now is a mass exodus from the Democrat Party into the Republican Party. I mean, the Democrats are flailing right now with how much they've lost support of the common citizen of the United States. So without importing their voters, without skewing the 2030 census, they're not going to be in power for a while, for quite a while. I want to congratulate President Trump on just a job well done, just a phenomenal job well done. He deserves every accolade that he's receiving right now. Same with his team that's gone over there and worked so hard. Marco Rubio, Kushner, Witkoff, they've all worked tremendously. Huckabee, just the amount of work that they've put into making this thing happen is just unimaginable. But this is my guarantee and promise to everybody listening. As long as we have strength in office, we'll have peace throughout the world. The second we start conforming and rationalizing and giving excuses to the spread of Sharia law or the spread of socialism, it will be guaranteed, it will be our downfall. It'll be the downfall of peace in the world. It'll be the slaughter of Israel. Another Holocaust, another October 7th will happen. You must keep that in mind as you vote and as you push your values, talk about your values to your friends, your neighbors, and so that everybody knows what you stand for, so that the word will spread and we can have millions of us voting the right way. We have to be the loud majority. It is no longer possible to be the silent majority anymore. You got to speak louder more often. And we've got to keep the peace. We got to keep the strength. We got to keep our constitutional rights and our constitutional freedoms, because that is the light. That is the standard throughout the world. That is what's going to keep world peace. Trump's flying home right now, and I can guarantee he's going to start tackling phase 2 and 3 of these peace deals. But he's already tackling Ukraine and Russia, and we'll see how quickly he can get peace in that theater of war. He's got to fight the government shutdown right now, and the Democrats trying to give insurance to illegals, essentially keeping those illegals here and buying their vote. So he's got a lot of work on his hands. And then finally, he's trying to declare war against the cartels down in South America. And we'll see how far that gets in Venezuela and Colombia and Mexico, and see if he can tear out those cartel networks and literally kind of go to war with them, and see what kind of peace we can bring to our own continent and get rid of the mass deaths that drug war and that evil networks are creating right here in our own soil, where hundreds of thousands are dying every year from that poison that comes across the border, the fentanyl, the cocaine, everything that comes across the border. It'll be interesting to see how much a fight the Democrats put up after this peace deal, because he was successful, it worked, and they're not going to be able to pull ammunition from there and say, you don't know what you're doing, you can't accomplish peace, you can't do this, when the whole world can look at it and say, no, yes he can. Yes he can. They're not going to have a leg to stand on, just like right now they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to the shutdown. Let's see what happens in the next few weeks. Stay tuned to the God and Country podcast. We need your support. Like, subscribe, share it. Watch our videos. We got a video, like I said, coming out with Caroline Fippin this coming week. We just put out a video this last weekend about the end days, second coming of Jesus Christ, the apocalypse, all that fun stuff. We talked to Dr. Moore a couple weeks ago, just a tremendous podcast on what happened during COVID. We still have ICE coming in. We still got Border Patrol coming in, Angel Studios coming in. So a lot of great things coming up on the God and Country podcast. What we really need is listeners, not just subscribers. Listen to our podcast. We got a lot of information in them. We jump around a lot, but it's great, significant information that you need to be aware of. So support us. We appreciate you being there for us, and we'll see you on the next video.